Hello everyone, I have the Kia EV5 here with the big battery, and of course I had to do a charging test because the EV3 and the EV5 should just be different in size. They have a different motor, front wheel drive motor, but it's the same battery, 81.4 kilowatt hours. But Kia says it charges faster, where the EV3 only goes up to a peak of 130 kilowatt, EV5 should go up to 150 kilowatt, but the times 10 to 80% should be the same. That's what Kia says. And so of course I had to do a charging test. I recorded the whole charging session, made the charging curve, and then we're going to compare it to the EV3, but also to another EV which has similar battery size and is not 800 volt, because I think Kia is a bit behind here, not by a lot, but just a bit. So let's get into it. Do you want to charge for free? Of course you do. Stupid question. And how can you do that? With Ancharge. Ancharge is an app. Install it on your phone, and when you are at the charger, you rate the charger. You give some information. Can you charge there with a trailer attached and other things? And for this you get kilometers and stars, and these you can exchange for charging credit. Use the link in the description below to get 20 kilometers to start with. And here we are. I charged at CityWatt at a 300 kilowatt charger. It goes up to 140 kilowatt pretty fast after a few minutes, and the peak is 149 kilowatt, but then we will see it doesn't hold that very long. Here we're already going down at 32 kilowatt, and now it will go down in steps, and you see that in the curve very well. Always little steps, goes forward, another step goes down. Here it went down to 126 kilowatt, then 116 kilowatt, then we're gonna go to 106 kilowatt, then 96 kilowatt in a second, 98, then 86 kilowatt. So under 100 kilowatt is pretty fast down. We have 86 kilowatt, and then it charged from 9 to 80% in 31 minutes. So the 10 to 80% is really around the 30 minutes that Kia says. And here we have the charging curve, and is really exactly like you just seen. Goes up pretty fast, goes up a bit more, but then in steps, step by step, and like I said, 30 minutes. Under 100 kilowatt at around 65-66%. And of course here the time 10 to 80% in 30 minutes. But now we have to compare it to other cars, especially the EV3. The EV3 I tested in May of last year, and my charging time was 33 minutes. In May, I'm pretty sure, because it was 9-10 degrees, I needed the battery heating, but it does it automatically. And here with the EV5, it didn't need it. I did it after 130 kilometers an hour range test, and when I navigated back to the charger, it never preheated the battery. I tried to do it manually because the battery temperature says middle or normal, and it still didn't let me preheat. But when we go in here, we see that the EV3 in red is under the EV5 up here till 50%, and then is above. And even though it took 33 minutes, and Kia says it would also take 30 minutes, I don't see how this could save the 3 minutes till it goes perfectly up to the 130 kilowatt. And then in steps here at around 70%, a big step down, and at 75%, another big step down. Here you can see that it's just so low, where the EV5 stays up a bit and then is underneath, but a bit more stable. And also in here I have the Volkswagen ID.5, the GTX, which charges a tiny bit better on the top, but you can see what a 79 kilowatt hour, except for 81 kilowatt hour battery, 400 volt system can do, because I think that Kia is setting the EV3, EV4, EV5 a bit back, even though they have amazing charging in the EV6 and in the EV9. With 270 kilowatt peak and 18 minutes 10 to 80%. But in the EV3, 4, 5, they wanted to save a bit of money, and now the charging is not that amazing. And the amazing thing is with the ID.5 that up here you can see that the charging of the ID.5 is above, and then at around 45%, it's almost the same as the EV5. And that's why we get more kilowatt hours into the battery, and it also takes only 27 minutes, 10 to 80%. And you can see that also in the kilowatt hours. Again, in red I have the EV3, in blue the EV5, and in yellow the Volkswagen ID.5. And the EV3 is just underneath, then in blue EV5 in the middle, and the ID.5 is here on top. But the interesting part is, after 26 minutes, EV3 and EV5 meet. So that after 26, 27 minutes, they charge the exact same kilowatt hours, which is very interesting. And now the range added into the battery over time. And this is a bit hard to do because these three cars have been tested in very different weather. Where the EV5 was now in August 26 with 24 degrees. The EV3 was in May 25 where it was 9 to 11 degrees. And the ID.5 was tested in October, almost November of 25 with 7 degrees. So there's the heat. And of course battery heating at the end, so there's higher consumption, and you can see that in the numbers. EV5 23.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, EV3 23.9. That's very close to the EV5, even though the weather is a bit worse. So I'm sure also heat. So at the same time, EV3 will have lower consumption because of less drag. That's just how it is. And the ID.5, I can see here 228, but again, almost winter. I have an ID.4, which is very similar in May or April, and it had 240 or even less, something like this. And so the consumption is here a bit hard. But again, I calculated the range with this 130 kilometers an hour range test that I did. And then the curves you see in red, EV3 underneath, then in blue, EV5, in yellow, Volkswagen ID.5. And the EV5 is here better because of the higher consumption. If I put in consumption that I think the ID.5 will have, I think it's around the same as the EV5. Then the curve, of course, looks a bit different. But again, I haven't tested them at the same time. I think, so the normal ID.5 will have the same or lower consumption than the EV5. The GTX might have a bit of a higher consumption, and it charges a tiny bit better. So this is always the problem here. So like I said, EV5 charges a bit better in my tests. On paper it should be the same, just like I said, a higher peak. So if you only need 50%, then it's way better than the EV3. But if you have to charge to 80%, there's no difference. EV5 will have, of course, higher consumption than the EV3, bigger car, heavier car, a bit more powerful, which won't make a difference, but it's a drag coefficient that's just a bit higher. Overall, I think Kia could improve this charging a bit, higher peak, and also keep it a bit there. 30 minutes. I think now EV5 is not old. It's a newer car. I think now a 400 volt system, especially an 80 kilowatt hour battery, 78 kilowatt hours, or something like this can be used. I think it would be better if their cars would charge with around 25 minutes, 10 to 80%. 5 minutes is some time when you have to charge a few times. Yes, that is a good saving. And why they didn't give it the 800 volt system, it would be amazing if the EV3, a small little car, well, it's not that little, would have an 800 volt system and charge in no time. But for this, I don't know how much it would cost more just if you give it an 800 volt system. I don't know if this is so much more expensive, but if it would cost 3,000–4,000 euros more, I think it would be an extraordinary car, the EV5 as well. But that's it for me. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day and take care. Bye.